Hi, hello, and welcome to my channel. My name is Toki, and today I'm recommending 5 Korean films. Let's begin. First things first, I want to put a couple notes in before I start my list. So these are recommended. These are not my top 5, though I do think some of these movies would definitely be on my top 5 list. I'm keeping it recommended for the reason that I don't want to put movies that everyone puts in their recommended because I feel like my list would be very similar to others. So that's basically the main reason. So if you're curious why certain movies aren't in my list and certain movies are in my list, it's for that reason. Anyways, another note is that these movies are quite violent. I'm fine with it, but I love Quentin Tarantino movies, so that to give you some insight of what movies I watch. So some of these might be very violent, and if you're very uncomfortable with that, I totally understand, and I would probably suggest sitting these movies out. At number 5, we have Lady Vengeance, also known as Sympathy for Lady Vengeance depending on where you are. This movie is created by Park Chan-wook and is part of his unofficial Vengeance trilogy that includes Oldboy and Sympathy for Mr. Vengeance, Oldboy receiving the most praise out of the 3. All of these movies are revenge movies and have clever storytelling and beautiful cinematography. But since we're not talking about all 3, let's focus more on Lady Vengeance. One thing I like to add before I start talking about the plot is that I'm going to be butchering these names terribly, so I just want to apologize in advance. I hope it's not that annoying and it's not that terrible, but if it is, I apologize in advance. So anyways, the plot of Lady Vengeance. So the movie follows Lee Gum-ja, a woman who has just been released from prison for a crime that she did not commit. After long years of planning during her sentence and calculating on what she's going to do once she's released, she is finally able to put her plan in motion. I already said this before, but this movie has brilliant storytelling and amazing cinematography. And one of the things that I really like about this movie is its seamless transitions. There's a lot of transitioning from Lee Gum-ja's time in prison to her present, to her past, and even to her fantasies of committing her revenge. And they're all seamless, and they never give off too much information. And it also just keeps you in that intrigue of what's happening next. And I find that very well done and brilliant. I also like the plans that she has for her revenge. I find them well thought out, and it's a great film for that reason. I also have to say that this is a psychological thriller, but it isn't your normal thriller that you would watch. It's subtle with its thrilling moments, I guess would be the best way to put it. It's not always in your face, though it does have that constant intrigue that keeps you on the edge of your seat.
이 과장이 그게 뭐야?
친절해 보일 것. 안녕히 가세요.
At number 4, we have The Good, the Bad, the Weird. This movie is set in 1930s Manchuria, a couple days before Japan's invasion. Park Chan-yi, our bad, is a leader of a group of bandits and are sent for a treasure map from the Japanese official. Before they're able to take it, though, the map is taken by a thief, Yoon Tae-gu, the Weird. A bounty hunter, Park Dong-won, the Good, is sent to collect the bounty of Chang-gi, which starts this whole race of finding the treasure. One thing I'll say about this movie is that it is just a fun Western. I wouldn't really think too much on it for plot-wise. It's just a fun movie to watch. I love Song Kang-hong, who is the Weird in the story. He's an amazing actor, and you can totally see that in this movie. He totally sells it. For reasons of watching this movie, if you want to watch something that's not as complicated of a plot like the other movies I'm recommending, I really recommend this movie. It's super fun and it's really enjoyable. I watched this movie and I was laughing at great parts, and then I was enjoying it, and I think that's basically the simplicity of this movie. I wouldn't necessarily think too much about it.
아니면 쟤네들 헷갈리게 왔다 갔다 하면서 뛰어가는 게 낫겠냐?
At number 3, we have Tale of Two Sisters. This movie is a psychological horror. The movie is inspired by or based on, not really sure because the story is a little bit different from the other, but it's inspired by a folklore called Jangwa Hyongyeon Jeon. I'm butchering it so bad. I'm putting a picture. You guys know what it is. There is also a English remake of this movie, and it's not good. If you want to watch it, it's called Uninvited, but I low-key don't recommend it.
Key to a good roast is to let it sit 10 minutes before carving.
So in the movie, we follow Sumi, who has just been released from a mental institution. She meets with her father and younger sister, Soo-yeon. They move to their secluded house and meet their stepmother, Yoon-ju. The family has a very complicated relationship, and this all has to do with the tragic events that happen in their past and in that house. So, for my horror fans, I really recommend this movie. It's so good, it keeps you in suspense, and the plot is so intriguing that I promise you'll love it. One thing I will say about this movie is that there's a lot of layers to it, unfortunately. Well, I shouldn't say unfortunately. It having layers is great, but you may have to spoil the ending for yourself or watch it more than once. Because there's a lot of scenes that you may miss from the beginning if you're watching it for the first time. But other than that, it is a great movie and I absolutely recommend it. At number 2, we have Burning. So, we follow our main character, Jung-soo, and he's a bit of a loner, and Jung-soo, during the day, runs into his childhood friend, Hami. After their meeting, Hami mentions that she's going on a trip to Africa, and she needs someone to take care of her cat. So, Jung-soo offers. When Hami comes back, Jung-soo meets Ben, a man that Hami met during her time in Africa. And from there, the story starts to take a darker tone. Without spoiling anything, I would just like to add that I would be aware of burning greenhouses when they're mentioned. Might not be exactly what you think. This is a very well done film. However, if you're not an avid movie watcher or you just don't like movies that cause you to think so much, I will say that maybe you want to miss this movie out. There is suspense, but it doesn't go straight to your face. It's almost less than Lady Vengeance in that sense. It's way pulled back and there is a lot of slow build. And if you're not really focusing in it, you may miss a spot in the movie that is actually very important later.
난 가끔 비닐하우스를 태워요.
뭐라고요?
가끔 비닐하우스를 태운다고요. 난 비닐하우스를 태우는 취미가 있어요.
At number 1, we have I Saw the Devil. Quick warning for this movie. This movie is very gory and bloody and it's just extremely violent. So if you're really not into that, I don't recommend watching this movie. Even in Korea, they had their own issues and there had to be several cuts to this movie because it was so violent. So if you're really not into that kind of stuff, I really recommend not watching this movie. But if you're okay with it, let's go. So the plot follows Kim Soo-yeon, who is an agent from the National Intelligence Service. His wife is brutally murdered by a serial killer, and Kim Soo-hyun seeks revenge. He tracks the serial killer down and he begins his gruesome plan for revenge. So, this is one of my favorites, and I'm so biased to putting it as number one because this is a movie that really got me involved in Korean film. I did watch Oldboy, but that never gave me the boost to search for more Korean films. It was actually I Saw the Devil that made me really want to look more into Korean films, and now I can make a list because I watched so many. But this film is such a true thriller in my mind. It keeps you on the edge of your seat, and you really don't know where the film is going to go until you're at the end, and then you're just like, how do I process this? But it's all in a good way. I really do enjoy this film, even though it is a bloody revenge movie and people put that as negative. I really do think there's a lot of great things about this movie. Choi Min-sik, which is the same actor from Oldboy, is the serial killer in this film, and he does such a phenomenal job of acting. And honestly, I think it's one of his best work of acting as a serial killer. He usually plays these awful characters, but this was the first movie that I just went wow, you're disgusting. But anyways, I do think this is a great film. The cinematography is great. If you ever watch this, I hope one day that someone will make this a maze or literally a horror video game. There's so many great things about this movie when it comes to cinematography and set design. I really do recommend this movie if you like Quentin Tarantino style films or just Quentin Tarantino in general. It has a lot of interesting storytelling with partnered with violence, and to me it works well. One thing I do have to mention is if you don't like revenge movies, you're not going to like this movie. You really aren't. And unfortunately, I would like to recommend this movie for everyone, but I know this is not a film for everyone. But if you like revenge movies and you like Quentin Tarantino movies, I hope you enjoy it as much as I do.
뭐야? 혼자야? 너 경찰이니?
That's the end of my list. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you want to recommend any movies or you liked any of the movies, go ahead and comment down below. And if you like this video, please give it a like. And if you're interested in more of my content, please subscribe. I hope you guys have a great day, and bye!